of our 5 council members present. Councilman Speth, Councilman Kirk, Councilwoman Eck, Councilman Paulson. So let's go ahead and get started. We have a quorum. Start the Pledge of Allegiance, and that's not a flag behind me. That's my wife's quilt work.
It's nice.
Yeah, yeah. And on that note, we can go ahead with a Pledge of Allegiance, or we can skip that.
I think we should do it.
Yep,
Right.
I do too.
Hey, Josh, did you volunteer to have a flag?
I have a flag in my office right now, actually. Well, kind of. I mean, it'll work.
Can you move your camera?
Well, yeah, because I have our trade show booth set up in my office right now, and it has a flag in it. So I'll turn my.
Is that a yes?
There you go.
There we go.
Right there.
Freeze frame.
You want to do it where one of us says it and the rest of us follow along so we can hear it?
Or the rest of us are muted.
Yeah.
So I have a message here. It says my internet connection is unstable. I don't know if Ryan shared with you, but we've made arrangements for Syringa, which is a fiber company to connect this building, and we're not connected yet. They tunneled under the street last week, under Gateway Drive. Oh, you have a picture of one.
Yeah. But that's better than nothing.
It is. You're absolutely right.
We've even got a guy holding it up for us.
Next council meeting, I promise we'll do something better. On that note, let's go forward with the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone will follow me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Anyone like to offer an opening comment, remark, or prayer? Carrie's raising her hand. Go ahead, Carrie.
I will, unless it's someone else's turn.
I don't think this is like kitchen prayers at the dinner table. I think you can just go for it.
Okay.
Rotate.
Our eternal Father in heaven, we bow our heads and we express gratitude for the opportunity that we have of living in this free country where we enjoy such abundance. We're grateful for the blessings of prosperity and of joy and of service. Heavenly Father, we pray that thou will bless us this night, that our hearts and minds will be open and clear. Please help us to be efficient with our time and help us to make decisions that will be in the best interest of the people of Providence. We pray that thou will help us in our stewardship, that we can be mindful of those who are less fortunate than us, that we can be mindful of those who need our love and listening ear. We pray that we can make decisions that will have the future of Providence in mind, and that we can be progressive and forward thinking. This prayer we offer in the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right. Thank you, Carrie. All right, let's move on. I'm just going to do a quick preview of tonight's council meeting. We have staff reports. We'll go on to approval of the minutes. We'll have public comments. We do not have any public hearing items. We have 3 administrative business items, no legislative items, council reports, and that's it. It's probably going to be a fairly short meeting. And Ryan promised, for those who weren't on earlier, that if we get done by 6:30, he'll buy dessert.
I mean,
Challenge accepted.
On that note, let's go ahead with the staff report. I'm sorry. Go ahead with staff reports. Rob, you're connected to us, aren't you?
I am. Hello, council.
Go ahead.
roads is the big topic for what we've done in the last few weeks. We've managed to get through another wave of crack seal in a large way, HA5, high density mineral bond, the chip seal with the new version of chips, the Utilite chip that we're trying out. So far, I like what it's showing us. We'll see how it holds up over the test of time and traffic volumes mashing it down. The fog seal just happened yesterday on top of that chip seal. So those preventative treatments are all completed, apart from the line striping. And the line striping for all the roads that we have that is scheduled for the 26th. So next week we'll have that done. We've got most of the crosswalks and stencils for arrows and school letters and things like that are completed as well. So we've done a good job as far as getting through this wave of those treatments. I don't think we had a lot of mishaps or upset residents. I appreciate the residents for being patient. Those 24-hour road closure areas for the HA5, it's amazing that we don't get more upset people or complaints. People like the product and it goes really quite smoothly. So I'm glad to be able to let y'all know that we got through all that without very many upset people. Complaints were very, very minimized. Any questions related to what we did, where we did, the products we used? I can't hear the mayor. It looks like he's talking.
Questions of Rob, council members?
Yes,
Hearing
thank you.
none. Rob, I just have one question. I know you're looking at how much we were going to need to spend on HA5 and if there's any money left over. And there were several streets you had considered that may follow. Is there any of that going to happen? 100 East near the elementary school, a block north of there, and 200 north.
I've got some bids, but I have not got all the invoices. In fact, I don't think I've gotten really any of the invoices for all those materials I just told you all about. So between the crack seal, the HA5, the chip seal, and related expenses that kind of come in piecemeal to all those different projects, I haven't gotten any of the invoices to tally things up and truly see where we landed in our budget. But I do have some bids for some other projects to see if there's a little bit more money that can be spent in wise, good, wonderful areas, if there's remaining budget. And I kind of anticipate there to be some. I hope that there is, but until I get all the invoices and get that final dollar, I don't want to push any green lights.
So you don't know yet?
Not until I get the invoices, and I've asked them all to be very punctual when, as far as getting their invoices now that the projects are complete, submitted to us so that we can
Okay.
get that.
Council, any questions of Rob?
Mayor, I have a question.
Hearing none. Scarlett, you want to go ahead with your report?
Neil has.
I had a question, Mayor.
Sure.
Rob, what's the update on the on the west crossing of Spring Creek? I've driven past there. I just wondered how far away that is from being done.
It's a ways from being done. It is a very slow moving project. It's kind of for the most part, it's a one-man show. He's got a couple of guys that help him, but it seems to be rotating through different temps that he has helping him as far as truck driving. So if you've kind of kept an eye on that project at all, you'll notice that it is moving daily, but it is moving very slowly. And on the flip side of that, its slow factor is ensuring quality, because there's one good thing about that project is the compaction couldn't be getting done in smaller lifts, which means it's getting hammered down hard, because it's a slow process with the manpower that he's got on that job site.
Do you
But
think
it is moving
before winter?
Yes, it will be completed before asphalt shuts down. The Vineyard crossing, the east crossing, just started a couple days ago, and they're moving really, really fast. They've got the water line done, and they've started the box culvert preparations already. So I don't anticipate that crossing taking very long at all, maybe 4 to 6 weeks. if all goes as planned.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Anyone
Anyone
else?
else?
Okay, thanks, Rob. Scarlett?
I do have one email that Brian and I received a couple of hours ago that I would like to read. It pertains to tonight's agenda. It's from Kent Dunkley. He says, please withdraw my annexation request for Steve Meisner on parcel 02-096-0035. I will be reapplying for an annexation of parcels 02-096-0013, 02-096-0035, 03-002-0007 on one application. So no annexation decision tonight, but you will probably see another one that will have property along the east side of Highway 165 in the area of 300 South in the fairly near future. So that
So
even
that's item
shortens
number
the
3
agenda
on the
even
agenda.
more. Yeah. As far as other land use items, we are busy. We have 7 active subdivisions and 2 active rezones that are scheduled for public hearing with the Planning Commission. We just have another rezone application that came in today. April is extremely busy in the residential site plan area. Administrative Land Use Authority is seeing quite a few homes in areas that are designated as sensitive areas. And so they're coming in to see us for conditional use permits. I think we've got 2 in-house that we're waiting for the applicants to get us some more information. And the appeal authority is actually going to hold a meeting tomorrow. They haven't met since 2018, but we do have 2 variance requests. The way our city code is written, the appeal authority is the body that hears variances. And so they have 2 variance requests that they will be discussing tomorrow afternoon. So other than that, we're moving along.
Scarlett, I have a question. Excuse me, will these meetings be available on Zoom for us to participate in, or are they in-house? How will they be held?
The appeal authority meetings will be available on Zoom, just like, and streamed live to YouTube. The administrative land use authority meetings are done the same way. We put the agenda out and you should be able to connect with them.
Available on Zoom for us to participate in, or are they in-house? How will they be held?
The appeal authority meetings will be available. Well, that's strange. Zoomed, like, and streamed live to YouTube. The administrative land use authority meetings are done the same way.
Scarlett, do you have YouTube running? 'Cause
No,
it would be delayed if that's the case. Okay.
nope, I don't. I just have Zoom.
Our YouTube does run at a little bit of a lag, so I just checking.
And then on the recreation side of things, spring baseball finally ended. It got a very late start, but it ended. I think that all in all, we had a lot of kids that had spring baseball and softball. We had a lot of kids that had a lot of fun. And so now we're moving on to fall sports. Our little kickball started last night. So you'll see the little tinies out there on the T-ball kickball field. And flag football will be starting soon. So we are trying to keep people busy. And then of course you've got the concert coming up on the 29th and another one on the 18th in September. So that pretty much does it for my side of the world. And if there's any other questions.
Sorry, there is a question that maybe Josh will ask it, but I'd read it off if he doesn't want to. He just posted it on the chat, so I just given a chance there. But yeah, rezone comes to council, yes. So I can read the whole question if you want, but it is in the chat. Okay.
I was also wondering if the planning and zoning decided to look at that high density zone that we had requested them to look at.
Planning and zoning did look at that high density zone. They feel like they wanted to keep options open. They realized that you as the council can deny a high request, but they felt like it was a tool that should stay in the box for right now.
Okay.
Carla, could you explain the conditional use permit process to me?
When someone comes in and they, it depends on what they're doing. If they're a business, if it's a use for a business license, they'll fill out a business license application and they'll fill out a conditional use application. If they're coming in because of a sensitive land area, they'll fill out a residential site plan application or a commercial site plan application, depending on which it is, and then also a conditional use application. And then they, as part of that conditional use, the reason for it is that there must be something, there's something that causes some concern, some kind of already established criteria. Like for land use, it's the sensitive areas, the fault line or steep slopes or potential liquefaction, things like that. And on uses, oftentimes it's excess traffic or a lot of people coming and going from the residents, things that would kind of not be normal at a normal residence unless you have 6 kids like I did, and then we had buku traffic when they were all young. But anyway, they come in, and part of the conditional use is they look at the problem areas that their business or the sensitive areas in a site plan, and the applicant works with their engineer or their business plan, and they tell us how they're going to either mitigate the sensitive area, what kind of precautions they're going to take in the design of their home, with their footings, different things like that. On the case of a business, they tell us how they're going to handle traffic or noise or scheduling, things like that. And the Administrative Land Use Authority listens to those. We make sure that they're things that are doable and realistic. And then if we feel like that meets the criteria for mitigation, we can go ahead and approve their application. The thing that a lot of people don't understand about conditional uses, it's a permitted use with conditions. So a lot of times people will think, well, the land use authority can decide whether or not they want to allow her to have a music studio or something like that. Not really. If you said that music studios can go in a zone with conditions, then all we can do is make sure that the conditions that they're presenting will mitigate the detrimental effects. We can't tell them they can't have their music studio there unless there's no way they could mitigate the effects. And the same on a residential site plan. The other thing about conditional uses is that they do run with the land. So when someone comes in with their residential site plan on their building, and we look at it, then once we grant that, then that house can be built the way they've told us they can, unless for some reason they've made a flaw in their engineering design and then they have to correct it. So that's how conditional uses work. They're a use that we've already agreed that it's okay to do. It's just in some areas we have to have some mitigation strategies. Does that answer, Janelle, what you needed to know?
I think so. So it's not really an exception to the code. It's that they have to do a little extra work to do something in that area.
Right. Yes, it's definitely not an exception to the code. If somebody comes in with an idea that they want to do, whether it's a creative building design or a creative business, if there's not a use or a setback that already allows that, we can't do that. All we can do is look at uses that fit our code, except for, like I said, maybe they have to dig their footings down deeper than normal because of landslide potential, or maybe they have to schedule their classes different for a music teacher so that she doesn't have a lot of parking. But no, we can't make an exception. We can only work with uses that can be mitigated.
At that point, Janelle, some of the exceptions would go through the appeals, which is the variance committee. So those you might be thinking of variances rather than conditional use, because conditional, like she said, is approved with condition. And then we just establish what those conditions are. But variance committee would issue something that might vary from the rules. And that's why the appeals authority, she talked about, the appeals authority would hear those.
The other thing, a council, the way our ordinances are set up, if it's an exception, if it's a variance from the zoning code, then the appeal authority is the appropriate body to hear that, and they follow the state guidelines, just like Ryan just said. But if it's an exception that they want from some of our subdivision regulations, then that will come to you. And then staff will, and planning commission will go ahead and approve the development based on the conditions that you establish with the exceptions. It's not a conditional use at that point. You've, for some reason, given them an exception to the subdivision. I can think of a couple of cases where we have a rule that a road can only be around 1,300 feet in length without a intersection. That's not the exact amount, but that's good enough for illustrative purposes. In a couple of places in the city, putting an intersection in really would have been more detrimental. And so the developer made application to the city council. The city council looked at our subdivision requirement, and the city council voted to allow an exception to that because it was in the best interest of public safety that those roads did not have intersections just for the sake of an intersection in an inappropriate place. So the old staff doesn't handle anything that would be an exception to the city code or a variance to the city code.
Okay. Thank you, Scarlett.
Yep.
Any more questions for Scarlett? Thank you, Scarlett. Ryan, what have you got for us?
A few points just to cover. Some will be covered in the meeting today, but the Parks and Trail and Recreation Master Plan is well underway for those that are on that committee. The inventory, they've met with the staff and gone over some of the parks and the inventory, and we're working through some of those. They've drafted a public survey, and that's getting, we're going to roll that out probably starting next week. So we're excited for the progress we're making there. And so anyway, some more might be mentioned in council reports on that, and I won't go too far into that for that reason. The Transportation and Traffic Master Plan is underway. We have a survey drafted for it that will roll out here soon, and we are making progress. So that is progressing. The 100 South COG application for grant funding was submitted, and we're just working through a few little details to make sure we have our best chance of getting funding on that. The one thing, I have sent this out, but just so everybody's aware and on the same page, the Thompson property, the 1000 South Thompson property, we had an offer. We had a letter of intent that was signed on both sides. We were moving forward, but they've backed out of that. And so at this point, we'll look at other possible options there. But we have tried to reach out and just kind of see if maybe as they go through some things, it sounds like they've got some busy things on their end. So anyway, hopefully that maybe opens up later on in the year. Our sewer master plan we'll talk about, but one of the things that we did receive a 50% grant for up to 30,000. So as we award that project, half of the money that we'll spend on the sewer master plan is through a grant from the Community Impact Board. Two other things, kind of get your information on. We'll have this maybe in future council meeting, but just to plant a seed for you, and that's the COVID-19 funds, the CARES Act. We did receive an amount awarded to us, or at least allocated to us from the state. A lot of other communities are issuing community grants to business owners or residents. And we might have somewhere in the neighborhood of 250,000, maybe even as high as 500,000 to spend towards some of those kind of things. So if you're open for community grants, that's something we've looked at. North Logan's, and I've looked at a few others, and we're kind of bring that back, but wanted to get it out there early so that you had some time to think about that. And then the other one is just to kind of update on fiber. That was one that was discussed at our last meeting. I sent out an email to kind of clarify, but just so I get you on the same page. The moving forward and getting information from Zion's Bank has worked fairly well. I've got another meeting with them, and I think that will move forward fairly quickly. We're going to meet with the USDA and see what the availability is of funding there, because that would be our cheapest option. But it's the design and kind of working down that. The RFP was, the motion last time was to put out an RFP for design. And I guess my question is Strata's willing to continue working and delving into this as kind of a partner at no cost? If they're at no cost, are you okay with us continuing down that road until cost comes up and we get a few more answers resolved and details figured out? And if you are, then I propose we do that. If we need to go to the RFP, it's been hard to find some of the RFPs in that realm. It hasn't worked the same as roads and other things. So anyway, wanted to get your thoughts on that one. Anyway, any feelings that way? Are you okay continuing with our discussions with Strata as long as there's not a cost before we go out to any RFPs or contracts?
I would like to see us continue to have the ball rolling. But I feel comfortable with Strata and their experience and what they're offering.
Ryan, can you talk about American Fork? You talked to this David Bunker, the city manager there, and they're working with Strata.
They have watched us on the periphery, and they have come to the conclusion, at least at this point, they've come to the conclusion that they're headed down the same road, and they have, from my understanding, they've decided to go with Strata, and they are in the same position we are, determining whether we want to go to a utility or a subscriber model, and they're back and forth that way, similar to what we are, and so they're very much in the same position, going in really the same trajectory we are. So yeah, that's where they've decided. They've reached out to Strata and watched us and are kind of pairing the same similar one. They are calling theirs a public-private partnership to define what they're doing with Strata. And so anyway, yep.
But the original description of the utility model is what American Fork originally had an outline of.
right? They originally
Uh,
started there, and now they're in the middle between subscriber
Right.
and utility. So they're,
So they called their system Light Hub, and the Light Hub was a utility model. But now you're saying they're rethinking that and they're trying to see,
yeah,
have that dialogue as to which is the best way to go. So they're in the midst of the same discussion we're having.
yep, yep. And they're
And
talking
there
with.
may
same
be some
people we're talking with
opportunities,
the-
and Ryan and I talked about this. I think there's a delay.
There's a delay. I don't know whether it's mine or yours.
I think it's our connection. Every time we speak and every time the video is displayed, it's got to leave this building and come back. So that's where the hangup is. Ryan and I talked about this. There may be some cost sharing we can do with American Fork, and we kind of tossed that around, and we've talked about possibly having David Bunker join us either in person or video. See where they're at, exchange ideas, as well as Strata.
Yep, yep. We've also talked, and I just move on to one other last item. We've also talked about potentially having a technical advisory subcommittee or committee that we put together of residents and maybe some experts there, and just helping to be able to get public input, and especially from those that are maybe subject experts in this field, bringing them on early and having them help us so that one, we're responsive to the community, as well as if it goes well, they can be leads in the charge of talking it up and helping us if they feel that that's the case. And but a good technical advisory committee, just kind of an ad hoc, we'll reach out to some that might be interested. So anyway, that's something else the mayor and I have talked about, and kind of seeing how we get the public involved, especially those that really know their stuff. And we have some smart people in Providence, so I'm hoping that we might be able to reach out and do something like that.
I personally really like the idea of a technical advisory committee, especially because I don't want to become a subject matter expert. I know the mayor's really wanting to have some workshops, and I feel like as long as we keep it to need to know information and not get too deep into the technical aspect, because that's not our expertise. Like, there's stuff that we need to know to make informed decisions, and that's good. But if there's a technical committee that can make recommendations to us in their field of expertise in a language that they understand, I would like to see them doing that footwork.
To respond to Josh's, I'm happy to send that restrictions out to you. The basic restriction is it has to match the scope of work, and the scope of work matches the RFP. So as long as we use the funds within the RFP, that we set out the scope of work for those grant funds, that's where the restriction is. We gave them what our restrictions will be as far as the RFP. And so going back to Josh's comment here on the chat. So,
but we need to disperse those funds to some other organization, is what I'm hearing you say.
oh, COVID. You're talking the CARES Act fund. Sorry, I was thinking the grant funds from.
No, I wrote that back about the CARES Act. Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. Yes, I can get you those for the CARES Act. Absolutely, I'll get that sent out.
Thanks.
Yep, thanks. I'm glad I clarified that. I would have sent you the wrong ones. All right, I think that's my report. If you have any questions, I'm happy to take anything else.
I want to address Carrie's comment. My suggestion about having a workshop, besides educating the staff and the city council, so we're conversant, is not about us. It's about the residents that we serve. I know for a fact myself, and I'm sure the rest of the council members are going to end up engaging in a conversation with residents. We're taking on and we're going to swallow this this big elephant, bigger than any project the city's ever taken on before. And I've been at this for 6.5 years, and projects like this, we go down these paths. They sound great to the council, but we really need to engage and involve the residents. And if we have a workshop, it's not just about educating the council, it's about inviting the public, who I would invite to ask questions of our subject matter experts. I'm not saying we should become subject matter experts by any stretch of the imagination at all, but I'd like them to feel comfortable that we're taking the time and effort, not just to understand the technical issues, but to hear them out, because we've had much smaller issues that have come up in the past 6 years that they sound great. Council makes a decision. We all smile, go home. And then we get to the point where we're about ready to sign a contract. And all of a sudden we have residents come out of the woodwork and tell the council they're making the wrong decision. I like to be in a position where even people that are not in favor of something the council has decided to do, they agree that at least we've done our homework. We've given the public the opportunity to weigh in. We've given the public the opportunity to understand the decision we're making and the options we've decided on. That's why I'm suggesting a workshop. And if you don't do that, and believe me, I've been down this path for the last 6 years, you find yourself politically bloodied and bruised. And
That's just
Christina,
misunderstanding, because I thought it was good for us, but educating the community is totally different. I agree with that. And last time we did a call with the community, Janelle and I were the only ones on the council that even joined the call.
So the idea is that, and there's a lot I have to learn. Ryan does. Ryan's been through this before, but our neighbors are going to ask us questions about what's the service going to cost? How long is it going to take? How long is this going to take to roll out? What is this going to cost the city? How are we going to pay for it? What are my options going to be as far as content, things like that? None of us know those answers. And this is kind of an iterative process. And when we went through some of these other issues, we dealt with fire and emergency services with Logan. We had a town hall meeting. We had a number of council discussions. We invited subject matter experts from different fire departments. We went down that whole path and we ended up with a tax increase, and we let everybody know that. But by the time we got to the end, we even had people that were opposed to the whole idea that came up to myself and other city staff and council members and said, you guys did a real thorough job, even though it wasn't something I agreed with. So I don't want to find ourselves in a position where we as a council go merrily along. And then we get near the end, and when we have members of the public say, we're not informed of what's happening. We didn't know this is going to happen. We didn't know you guys made this decision. We never had a chance to weigh in and comment, even though they did. When we went through the whole process with hiring a city manager, we had 3 workshops, and Christina was there, and we worked through the language of it. We had the public there, and we considered all the different sticking points and issues, and we were very thorough. And when we concluded, then we had we had teams that helped us through the interview process, invited members of the public. even for people that didn't like the whole idea of a city manager. So we were thorough, and we have to engage the public when we do stuff like this. And I think fiber is great personally. I just want to caution the council. If you don't want to have a workshop, that's fine, but that's my advice.
I think it's wise, Mayor. I like the idea of doing it. And I agree with the workshop. I think it's important, depending on what phase we're at with this, though, to just share facts, information, and appear somewhat nonpartisan. I don't want to go through I don't want to go through community theater here, just, to appease residents or make them feel well. I think, if we're going to do it, I think the intent is really to listen. I have heard, at least on this issue, from what we've seen via the email, it seems somewhat divided. I mean, if I had to count up tally points, I would say it was leaning in favor, of a majority of proceeding with fiber, but I've heard people on both sides of the issue, and I like to kind of present a if we have those discussions, I don't want to bring strata in to answer all the questions. I prefer that people presented both sides of the issue, and then at the end of the day we have to vote, but hopefully everybody's informed. And it's not that there's no downside risk, because there is. Every decision we make has downside risk. But at least for me, and I believe a couple other council members, we see the upside as being pretty strong in this decision. But I'd like to be able to argue both sides, so the public's most comfortable with it.
Well, this isn't about arguing both sides. And I'll give you an example. When we talked about the fire and emergency services contract, we brought in subject matter experts. We brought in Mark Meeker, who some of you, Carrie, you remember Mark. Mark, I mean, his exceptional background, 40 plus years, and worked with fire departments, different parts of the country, worked with volunteer fire departments, merged fire departments, just a wealth of knowledge. We had Chief Hannig from Logan City. We had Chief Downs from Smithfield. We had Rod Hammer from the county. We were thorough, and it wasn't about debating. Certainly we allowed people to talk, but it wasn't about debating. It was bringing in these people who the public could hear from, and I think it paid off, and it paid off well, and we got compliments for going through those extra steps.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if we're splitting hairs here, but some of the things that I have seen appear so one-sided that our mind's already completely made up on an issue, and we're doing an outreach just to go ahead and convince the public. And I guess that's, I realize there's a point where you need to get behind a decision and talk about the benefits of it. But I guess what I'm saying is, if the public perceives that as just like, hey, we already know what we're going to do, we just want to educate you on it, I don't think it goes over very well. So I think it's more important to kind of bring them along in the decision-making process. Let them weigh the pros and the cons themselves. So that's when I say a balanced argument. That's what I mean, a balanced discussion, and not necessarily one that is intent on just convincing everyone that this is the right direction.
Well, this isn't about strata putting on this isn't about strata putting on a presentation. When you're out in the public, Josh, and you're talking to your neighbors and they're asking you a question, personally, I'd like to see you're informed. And so you understand at a layman level, not a technical level, not a subject matter expert level, what this is about, what it involves. Most of the people are probably in favor of the idea, as long as we've thought this thing through, and it's apparent when they have a conversation with you that you're well versed on the details of it, not the technical side of it, but the customer side, the taxpayer side of it. And to me, that's really, really relevant, whether we're talking fiber or emergency fire and services or city manager or something else.
Well, and I think in some ways we are taking them down the path of the decision that's been made. Like last council meeting, we voted and made a decision that unless a huge red flag came up, I don't think we're going to retract that decision. So in some ways we're taking them on the journey with us. And I like the idea of a workshop that educates the community. My understanding was that it was just for us, but I feel much better about it if others are involved.
Carrie, I agree. I agree. A decision to go down that path has been made, but I think there's a big one out there, you know, the subscriber versus utility model.
Absolutely.
Very much in
We've
the
got to
air.
take them down that path with us.
And I think people care about that one. And I'd like to, you know, there are pros and cons to both of those. I'd like to kind of.
Yeah, and I don't know how I would vote on that if we had to vote on it tonight, you know,
Which is good. I think let's hear from the public and see how they feel.
Right, but I have been talking to people and it's interesting to hear, and I would hope that people would engage.
Mayor, I too feel like that we ought to have a workshop. I maybe would like to see more than one workshop. I would like to maybe see a workshop where we can get a little more educated, and then a workshop where we can get the input of the community. I feel that I have a thought about what I would like to see happen, but I represent the community, and maybe the community feels differently than I do. But I would like to get a little more education. And right now, all we've done is said, well, we either have a utility model, we'll have a subscriber model. That's what we decided. We'll go one way or the other. How far do we go? Do we get numbers to it? Is this what Strata's doing for us? Is this where we're going to get educated to, so that if the community starts talking utility versus subscriber model, we understand why they're making those kinds of decisions, or we can help them with presenting some facts to them, some understanding to them as we get questioned about it. I hate to be stupid about it when people question me and say, well, show up at a workshop and we'll explain it. I would like to have an education also maybe ahead of time so that I can understand it. Maybe that's not feasible, but that's kind of my thoughts.
So I like the way Carrie described it. The community, the public is going down the path with us. We're both sides, we're both getting educated. We give them the choice to participate. We wouldn't necessarily ask Strata to put on a dog and pony show for the public. There are things that are technical in nature, have to do with the architecture. And Ryan can probably explain what some of those things are. And I have a feeling once they get into some of those technical explanations, that there are decisions about the architecture that we may want to weigh in on. And so the design of this is not necessarily cut and dried. There's a Strata might say you can use this type of hub or this type of connection or this type of, and it serves this neighborhood in this manner. It provides this additional capability. I mean, those are things that they're not talking about understanding gigahertz and things like that. But I think those are technical things that at a layman level, we should probably make some effort to understand and learn. Ryan, anything you want to add or comment on?
I think it's true. We want to make sure that everybody's, at least the council, is comfortable being able to explain on a layman level the details of what we're doing. We don't want to leave any council member behind. We want to have the community involved in understanding where it goes. I think when we get to the choosing of hardware and getting to some of the details, you know, that may be where some of the specifics of issues may come to a technical advisory committee and say, you know what, okay, we don't want just Strata. Let's tap the resources we have here, and so we have that as a balance. And so I think that's a good one. That's kind of why I was looking at thinking about that one. That way the council doesn't have to go and decide, well, is it a Cat 6, Cat 5E, Cat 5, or RJ45 plug to a coax we don't have to get some of the very minor of details, but we want to have some help there. I don't know that you have to become a technical expert in every one of them. You might. I mean, some of you might have more of a desire than others to be down into that knowledge. It's a fun knowledge to be down into. At least for me, I can geek out with the best of them. So that works for me, but some may not want to, and that's okay on that one. But we want to make sure that everybody's comfortable, that enough knowledge is present to make a decision that's informed, that's well educated, and you make the right decision, whichever model that goes to. And I think once we have enough resources and you say, yeah, I'm one that I like surveys, you can tell that I like to go to the public, at least get some information and detail, and they're not always statistically accurate, but at least you involved people on a particular level. So, but yeah, so anyway, I'm happy to facilitate whatever the council would like.
Mayor, I'd like to make go ahead, Carrie.
Can we answer the questions that the mayor's used as examples, like how much it's going to cost, how much the loan will be, how long it's going to take? I mean, we've gotten basic when we've met with Strata, 2 years-ish to get everyone on, 30-ish if we do subscriber model, but do we have answers to those questions, or do we just create more questions until we have the answers?
Yeah, we have a dollar amount. We can redefine it, but they've given us an approximate dollar amount of the two models. And so between 5.2 and 5.6, I think. So if we go to a subscriber, we have 5.2. If we go to a utility, we have 5.6. I'd have to look at those numbers, but I have those. We have that kind of numbers. Although they'll be more refined. They're saying they'll construct at cost. Because they're looking at getting a system built, and what they're interested in at some point is to run and manage the system, and that's where they're going to have a profit margin, and that's where they want. But building it, they're saying, oh, we don't really have a margin on the build. We'll do that, basically at cost, and so that's okay. So if it becomes more efficient, then that passes on. But there is some of those. If it doesn't, we have a risk that it may overrun if we run into some problem. And there's always that contingency and risk. We don't know exactly what any project's going to cost. Just like Rob said, we don't really know what the chip seal and maintenance cost us until we get all the bids and get all the invoices back and total them up and see where we're going to go. There is that will always happen.
Right. Well, and even at cost, the resources fluctuate in price, I'm sure.
Right.
So we obviously need to be educated on all of that because it's been somewhat big.
Yeah, I think if you're an average neighbor, I think they're going to want to know. I mean, they're not going to get into the Zions Bank and the financing and the interest rates, things like that. They are going to say, what's wrong with what I have? Why is this going to be better? Is it going to cost me more money? I like the choice I have. Am I going to be competing with my neighbor like I do now for bandwidth? Things like that. And there is a good story to tell about fiber, about the options we're going to have that we don't have now. I don't understand all of that. Ryan knows a lot more than I do. But it's some of the things like that the average consumer is going to want to hear about. They're going to say, well, does that mean my property tax bill is going to go up? We want to be able to explain how that, the bonds that we're going to inherit and put on the books of the city financial statements, how that's going to be paid off, how it's going to be paid for. So, Brent, you had a comment.
Yeah, I was kind of going down that same road as you were, Mayor. The people that I've talked to, they said, well, I have what like. I like what I have now. I like the bundle. The only thing I'd take a cheaper price if I could get it. I would like some, not a lot of them are interested in more speed, but I don't deal with people who are making a living at home with it. But yeah, sometimes it gets a little aggravating when you're trying to get a little more speed out of it and you're getting held up and stuff like that. So I think what you said, what Carrie said, I don't necessarily want to know all the ins. I mean, okay, to talk to the public, I want to know that we're going to give them a product that is going to satisfy their needs, can bundle their all the things that they want for a price that's going to be competitive with what they got now or lower. And if I'm to help them to understand, I want to understand that we can do that. If we can't do that, if it's going to turn out to be kind of a financial hardship or fiasco,
Right.
then I have to find out that too, so that I can tell them for sure that's what we're dealing with. Thank you.
Okay. Hey, Janelle, you've been quiet. You probably understand more of some of these technical details than the rest of us.
I like the idea of having a technical panel. I think that would help with community outreach. I agree with Brent that the people want to make sure that they're getting what they think they're going to get. And I think that doing the technical work would make sure that that is the case. And they want to know what their options are. Just like what you said, those are the kind of conversations that I've had are similar to what you described with residents, that they want to know that they're still going to have the option to choose a provider. They want to know that, the pros and cons of what they're going to have. So I think it's good to have as much community outreach as possible. Surveys are good because I don't really want to be bloodied and bruised politically, personally, myself. I'm sure that's part of it. It's an occupational hazard that we've all taken on, but we really do have a desire to do
It's
good things.
what you guys all inherited when you got elected.
So those are my thoughts.
Okay. You probably have some other questions like, is my backyard going to be torn up? You're going to chew up my street? If I call for service, am I calling somebody in Roosevelt? And then I have to wait how many days for someone to respond to a service call? I think we're going to get all kinds of questions probably we haven't even thought of. And they're good. They're healthy. I mean, there's stuff we as council members, as ambassadors to the community, I think should know and understand. I did send a note off to a guy named Rick Hughes. He's a Providence resident. He works for Utah Public Radio. He's an electronics technician. He's worked for them for over 3 decades. Really knowledgeable guy. I just sent him a note saying if we formed a technical committee, would he be interested in joining? He's the guy who weighed in on what this whole 5G discussion was about.
I think he would be.
I'm sure there's probably some other fairly talented engineering type people here in our community that would be willing to join that committee as well.
Mayor, do you think there's members of the community that are not technical that would like to sit in and be part of this discussion and help understand things? I mean, I don't want somebody who's not interested in it, but somebody who's just interested in seeing us make a right decision that we could also bring in on accounts on a committee type basis.
Absolutely. They don't have to be engineers. And if you have any suggestions, pass that on to Ryan.
I do think the technical committee, though, should mostly consist of people who can speak sophisticated, so they don't have to take time educating someone who doesn't understand.
Agree.
Maybe that's a different committee we look at. Maybe this is a committee of citizens that are interested to see if we can provide the same services or equivalent services with a higher speed at rather than us all making this decision, a group of citizens that would take an interest in it. Maybe we put out in the newsletter, would you like to sit in this as a citizen? And would you take any interest in whether fiber is an option for Providence City or not? And sit in on a committee of citizens rather than a technical committee, and just let them also get educated as well and help make some decisions.
We could call it a consumer committee or residents committee or something.
I like the idea of having it listed in the newsletter and see who we get that is interested. And maybe there's enough for different committees, and maybe there's just enough for one committee. And I like that idea, Brand. I like, throwing out, see who's interested, and maybe we can formulate around that.
We
All right,
we certainly have the technical talent here in this city, not necessarily electrical engineers, but mechanical, aerospace, civil engineers. A lot of this is a civil engineering project.
Well, Mayor, that's my report. So if we have other questions, I'll take those. But there we do have the two for the RFPs on as attendees that we have, the committee will recommend. So anyway.
Okay. So we're still on staff reports. So we'll move on. So let's conclude on staff reports. Let's move on to approval of the minutes from July 15th last month. Do I have a motion from the council?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the July 15th, 2020 meeting.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Motion from Council Member Seeley, second from Council Member Speth. Discussion. I didn't have any corrections or comments. Council, anything you want to add, correct? Okay. Hearing none. I'll call for a vote. All in favor of approving the minutes of July 15th, signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Hearing none. I'm seeing mouths open, but okay. All right, passes unanimously. Public comments. Citizens may express their views to the city council on issues within the city's jurisdiction. Public comments may be sent to Providence City, Utah at gmail.com or text comments to 435-752-9441. The city council may act on an item if it arose subsequent posting of this agenda and the city council determines an emergency exists. Scarlett, do we have any text messages, emails?
No, I just checked. I don't have anything from the text or the email, the Providence City at Gmail, and I don't have anything on my S-Bankhead mail either. So no comments.
Ryan, do we have any comments on?
I don't see any comments on YouTube or on our Zoom feed. So nope, no comments from this end.
Okay, got it. All right. Hearing that there are no public comments, let's move on, close out the public comment portion. Administered business items. We have two. We've eliminated item number 3 at the petitioner's request. Approval of an RFP for audit services. The second is approval of an RFP for wastewater sewer collection master plan. Ryan has done all of the heavy work, heavy lifting on both of these. But let's go ahead with item 1, resolution 028, 2020, approval of RFP. Providence City Council will consider for adoption a resolution accepting a proposal for audit services for Providence City. We had committees that met, went over each of the proposals that were submitted. Ryan, you want to take us on that?
Yeah, so on the audit one, we had the mayor and Carrie in on this one. We evaluated, we got 4 audit firms that presented. Each one of them do other city audits. Each one of you have been through this kind of process. We put together a metrics, we grade them from 0 to 4, and then we weight the amount of their proposal. So if they're the cheapest proposal, they get a higher score than if they're the highest cost proposal. At this point, the committee recommended and recommends Aycock and Miles. They were the low price, and they came in with great experience. So their proposal was good, and their price, they did come in well. So that's a recommendation from the committee. We can go through any of the details if you want, but all of those should have been sent out for any of the council to review. So that's what that one is. That's what we'd have. So.
Okay. All right. So I need a motion from the council to approve the resolution. Need a motion in a second. Then we can have further discussion.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 028-2020.
Motion from Council Member Speth. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Further discussion. Ryan, you want to give them full disclosure?
I will give full disclosure that at one point in my life, before I was a CPA, I worked for Aycock and Miles, and that's where I got my my experience that qualified me to apply for a CPA license. I have utilized them in the past and have really liked the firm. So anyway, and Mike's daughter did marry a snowbutton of no relation.
How long ago was that, Ryan?
How long ago did I work for them? It was 16 years ago. It was just when my oldest daughter was born.
Okay.
So yes, full disclosure.
Okay. Council discussion, questions for Ryan?
Where are they located at, Ryan?
Aycock and Miles is located in Roosevelt. Each of them, I think we only had one that was located in the valley, and they were the highest price by quite a bit. The other 2 are located along the Wasatch Front, but Aycock and Miles is located in Roosevelt.
The local firm's price was twice as much?
Yes.
Jones Simpkins.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Ryan, do you know the principals at Aycock and Miles?
I know all the principals at Aycock and Miles. So they were the auditor of Roosevelt City when I was there as well, as an independent auditor. But they do various cities and government work. They're very professional in their work. So anyway, I have no doubt that they can accomplish.
And I think the principals were the ones conducting the audit, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct. The principals are coming. I don't even know that any of their staff is not licensed at this point. They might have a receptionist. I don't know on that staff. We could ask them. Mike is online, so their general partner or managing partner is online with us. We could ask him questions if you desire.
Council? Questions for Ryan? Okay, let's move on. Can I call for a vote? All in favor of approving the resolution 028-2020, approval of the RFP or approval of the proposal for audit services, signify by saying aye.
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 Josh, did you say aye?
I did.
Janelle? Okay. Unanimous. I saw the lips move. All right. Thank you very much. Let's move on. Item number 2, resolution 2029-2020, approval of RFP. Providence City Council will consider for adoption a resolution accepting a proposal for a wastewater sewer collection master plan. Also, Ryan did the heavy lifting and homework on this. I was not involved. Ryan, you want to give a quick recap and then we'll.
I would be happy to. We received 4 proposals on this. CRS, Horix Engineering, JUB, and Sunrise. I don't have any conflicts, but I have worked with each one of these firms in different capacities as far as them providing engineering services. So I'm aware of each. I've met with each one of them in this process. We did the same kind of evaluation. At this point, we had a 70-30 split, 70% based on the proposal, 30% based on the cost. And so at that point, we went through the evaluation. In the end of the evaluation, we recommend that Sunrise Engineering be awarded the proposal on this and continue with them creating a master plan. They are here local. Their team is almost entirely in Smithfield, and they had a very good detailed scope of work. They were in the top in each one of the categories we evaluated, and I think they would do a good job. And their price, not that it was the driving factor, but they were the low price. So it's been good that we've had the low price and the best proposal. So that's been
Resolution 029-2020, approval of RFP for wastewater sewer collection master plan. I need a motion to accept that proposal from Sunrise.
I move that we accept resolution 029-2020, granting the sewer collection master plan contract to Sunrise Engineering.
I think
I'll second that.
like Mayor might be frozen. Mayor, are you there?
Just holding very still.
Better than I am.
Can we just get fiber right away?
We're working at it.
okay, I'm back.
We have a motion in a second. I don't know at what point you froze, Mayor.
Okay, well, it's like Zoom decided to reboot right in the middle of everything, but it automatically came back. All right, we have a motion and a second. So did we get the council members who offered the motion and the second, Scarlett?
Yeah. Also,
Discussion.
Councilman, the second.
I'm sorry, Mayor, what did you ask me?
I was asking the council any questions for Ryan, discussion, clarification, sewer master plan. Must be real exciting. Okay. Ryan, there's no questions, no comments, no clarifications.
I do appreciate those that were helpful in the evaluation of this. Thank you.
I'm sorry?
I said I appreciate those that were instrumental in the evaluation of this. Councilmember Polson and Councilmember Speth were both very helpful in evaluating this one. So.
I'm not hearing you at all.
Uh-oh, am I frozen?
I hear you.
I hear you.
Okay, well, thank you, Brent, and thank you, Josh, for your help. I think this went really well.
Ryan,
Ryan, I
Yes.
can't hear you.
Ryan, what was the Sunrise proposal? I can't remember the dollar amount.
51,600.
How much?
51,600.
And we have a $30,000 grant, so we're getting a pretty good deal. We're getting a sewer master plan for $21,600.
Well, the grant is for half, up to 30,000.
Oh,
It
okay.
is a good deal. It is a good deal. It's just not that good a deal, but yes, it's a good deal.
So I think it's a good idea to really move forward with this thing. I think it's a good proposal.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
I just wanted to thank Ryan for getting the grant. And for those who helped with the RFPs. I know that takes a lot of time.
Okay. Council, anything else? Can I call for a vote? All in favor of approving the proposal for the wastewater sewer treatment collection master plan from Sunrise, signify by saying aye.
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 Brent, did you say aye?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a suggestion, maybe when we say aye or nay, we raise our hand with it too. We'll get a visual confirmation, then we can just move on.
And the other thing is, I think Ryan needs to promise that the next council meeting, we have a better connection.
How can he promise that?
Probably not the next one, but the one after that.
I thought they said a couple weeks.
They are, but I'm hedging my bet.
Okay. Okay, got it. All right. All right, measure passes unanimous. Thank you. Item number 3 is petitioners asked to withdraw the annexation petition. We have no legislative items, so we'll move on to council reports. I got mine covered and answered earlier, so I don't have anything. Josh?
Sure, I can go ahead. So my 3 areas are Cache Valley Chamber of Commerce. Just a reminder, they have a leadership luncheon once a month and a women in business luncheon once a month. My circumstances have not allowed me to attend those luncheons, but they do take place. I think they're the second or third Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Just of note, I think it's interesting within EDC Utah, they have the Outdoor Leadership Summit going on. It's not up here, but I know we're a major outdoor community, and a lot of people enjoy our outdoor recreation here in Utah. So that's going on next week, I guess 25th through the 27th in Utah County. And it's also taking place virtually, so you can attend that. I just thought I'd quickly share because this is so appropriate. This is from, let me see if I can share my screen. Do I have permission to do that? Share screen? Nope, I can't share my screen. I was going to show something to you, but oh well.
I can change that.
You change that real quick because it's good.
There you go. Go for it.
Oh, I can do it. Okay. Let's see. Anyway, this is what they're sharing at this event. It's one of the few conferences I've heard or summits that's still going on. I know all of ours for work were all canceled this year. This one's still going on. I like their social distancing rules, if you can see this. So what does space look like for the Outdoor Rec Summit? So 2 picnic tables, 1 grizzly bear, a yoga mat, or some moose antlers. So some visuals to help us to remember to social distance.
Nice.
Okay. Christina?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay, Janelle?
We've still been working with the water company. We're making some progress. They've had a board meeting a couple of weeks ago, and they're making some headway. We're still meeting with them and working on that. Carrie and Ryan and I. Also, the library changed, the director changed, and the new director has several projects that she's contacted our operations and maintenance Shane in the city staff. They're going to do some painting and a few other things. And we may try to organize some volunteers to go in and help repaint the inside of the library. And school starting. And I think that covers about everything for me.
Carrie?
Okay, I've got a whole list. I'm really sorry, everyone who wants a short meeting. Youth Council. We have had an awesome advisor. She had her 4th baby this summer and is no longer able to serve as the advisor for the Youth Council. So we're in need of a new advisor. If we'd like to keep the Youth Council going, which I feel as a service organization, it is a great opportunity for youth, and that they really can do some good and some service for the city. In fact, there's 2 things coming up that I would like their help with. One is they've been asked to help with the Millville pickleball tournament. They were asked to do more than I was comfortable with. And so I have responded that they could help with manpower, but not with fundraising and providing the food. But we need another volunteer to help with that youth council. I've reached out to the youth on the council and asked them to talk to their moms and have their moms call me if they're interested. But if you'll have your ears to the ground, if there's anyone who wants to become involved, it's a really great group of youth, and it's not a heavy commitment. They usually do before COVID, they were meeting once a month and doing an activity, or twice a month if needed, and doing an activity about once a month, and usually planning some kind of service for that activity. Number 2, the mayor asked me to head up canyon cleanup. If you've noticed, the canyons had some abuse this summer, as most summers. We've been in touch with Bob Perry, who says that people call it the free Providence dump. And it's super sad because it's such a beautiful canyon that it's getting abused in such a way. So I reached out to each of the 3 stake presidents in Providence. I thought they were our best route for recruiting help. And I feel like it's something that can be done with social distancing restrictions. And I feel like it's good for youth and adults and families to get out and help in that way. So what I decided to do was create a canyon cleanup week. Where, we don't want like 300 people to gather at the mouth of the canyon to go clean it up on a Saturday morning. I thought if it's a week, then families could go out on whatever day would work for them. So we're looking at the week of September 14th through the 19th. And then what I proposed to the stake presidents was that I would be at the parking lot at the mouth of the canyon on Monday, September 14th. And I told the stake presidents I'd be there from 6 to 7. It was changed in the newsletter to 7 to 8, but I intentionally chose 6 to 7 to accommodate families with children on a Monday night going out to help out in the canyon. So I would be there with garbage bags and popsicles. And then Tuesday, September 15th from 7 to 8, because most youth groups meet on Tuesdays at 7. I thought that's a great young men's, young women's activity. So I'd be at the mouth of the canyon again with popsicles and garbage bags. And then Saturday, September 19th from 10 to 11, I'll be there again to encourage people to come. The South Stake said that they're going to do a modified youth conference that day, and that they would include canyon cleanup as part of that youth conference. But I feel like that we should discuss more that we can do for prevention. When my living room's clean, my kids are less likely to dump stuff in it than when it's a mess. And so, the mayor has said a few times, once a year isn't enough. I agree with that. I'm willing to organize it this once, but I'm not committing to organizing it more. I feel like either someone else needs to take that on, or, we need to find a community member to do that. I'll do it this time. But if there's, obviously we don't have jurisdiction of the canyon, but we do, before they go up the canyon. So if we could consider a sign, no dumping, or carry out what you carry in. I know that it's all types of people that are creating the trash, not just the people up there shooting, but I become super irritated with the shells, and they shoot their targets and they break everywhere, and then you've got the glass all over the canyon. And I don't know if there's a way we can petition for that to stop, but it's a big problem. Anyway, should we talk about that for a second, or should I keep going? Because I've got more.
I had just a thought or two, Carrie. As you know, I spent a lot of time up that canyon. I've often wondered about jurisdiction, because I believe it's mixed jurisdiction too. I believe at some point it's sheriff's office, and at some point it becomes state land or something like that. Mayor, you're shaking your head. I'm not sure what it is, but I thought there was a division somewhere along there. My two thoughts are this: I'm wondering if we can kind of capture photos or the physicality of the amount of refuse that we pull out of the canyon, and share that and show that to kind of bring awareness to that, like as these groups. Can we collect and share these on social media or in a report, all the stuff we pull out of there? I did see Bob Perry up there I've seen him several times actually, like loading couches into the back of his truck and just crazy stuff. So I wonder if that would help bring awareness to the issue in terms of actually physically showing it. You've all seen those pictures of our polluted oceans. As soon as you see all the plastic in the ocean, then you suddenly realize, holy cow, there's a lot of stuff there, So I wonder if that will help. The second thought, and this is just a follow-up. I know probably was several months ago, Rob, I believe you were going to look into, or at least I suggested, hey, can we think about getting a garbage can or two down there and adding it to the collection route? There is no garbage can down at the bottom of the canyon. I know there is at the base of Dry Canyon, and people do use that and dump that. People don't really shoot up Dry, but I've seen a lot less junk up Dry Canyon at the base of Dry Canyon. I'm wondering, having a place for people to put stuff will help too, and that's a small cost to the city versus trying to organize all these cleanups. So.
We actually did address that issue to some degree. I've been a little bit discouraged by the amount of use that it unfortunately hasn't seen. The cans haven't been getting filled. There's a little bit in each. There's two Black Beauties right at the deer fence, and they've been getting used a little. And there's definitely some people that take care of their dog feces and have been putting it in there, but they're virtually empty every week. There are two cans there, and right underneath the sign that says, "Please pack out your trash."
Well, this would be a bigger thing. I know a garbage truck couldn't drive up there, but I'd be willing to kind of organize a crew to take this up or down. Is it possible to put one of those black garbage cans at the two pseudo shooting ranges that are up there? That's where a lot of traction happens. There's kind of two spots along that trail where, it'd be nice if people are supposed to toss their shells in there and stuff.
They just don't.
What would that take in order to kind of get that up and down? Would you need a resident to help kind of haul that back and forth, or what? How could something like that happen?
Exactly that. We'd either have to do it ourselves as the city, or we'd have to find a volunteer that's willing to go up there. The garbage trucks definitely won't go past the turnaround. We can see what we might get a garbage can really shot up and end up having to buy one, is what I foresee up there, or it'll vanish and end up in the river, but we could certainly try it.
It's hard to comprehend the disrespect. Last time I was up there with a bunch of kids to clean up the canyon, we started at the lower parking lot and went about a half mile and filled up the entire back of a pickup truck in about a half mile. And it's been a couple of years, and hopefully there's less and less garbage the further up you go, but I don't know if that's true. So we'll see how this cleanup goes. We'll see if this people of the stakes and the people of Providence pull through to show up that week. The idea that I've presented would be that Rob or his crew goes up every couple days or whatever, and we just get the stuff to the edge of the road and they go up and throw it into the back of trucks. Because the trash that's up there can be really cumbersome to carry and super dirty, like to throw in the trunk of a car, or other problems that I've had when I've gone up with volunteers to clean it. So the city's willing to support, and we'll see how it goes. But hopefully as that week approaches, all of you will be willing to share it on your social media and take your families up and encourage people to help out.
So I think it might need to be an effort that we do regularly. So I clean the canyon, a mile of Logan Canyon, twice a year, and it's the same. You guys, it's so much trash that you fill up these huge bags. You can't carry them. You have to leave them, and it's many bags in a mile. And so, but we do it twice a year. So what I'm saying is they do like adopt a canyon or adopt a mile or whatever, adopt certain things. I think that if we, I don't know, I always pick up my trash because my mother made me clean the streets almost every Monday night for family home evening. We did the garden or we cleaned the streets. So, I mean, I think we just, rather than do it all the time, we need to set times like the first of the summer and the end of the summer and do what you're doing, Carrie, but keep always doing it.
I agree with that. I just don't want to be the person that continues to organize it. You'll see as I go through the list that my city council assignment list has gotten extremely long.
Well, but I wonder too, if we put it out there for a group to adopt or to own it, a portion of it or a mile of it, and put a sign up saying that they're doing it, something to think about.
Carrie, I'm happy to help with this one. I deeply care about the canyon, and I use it regularly. So you know, if something needs to be shifted, I'm happy. And I stop people and tell them to not shoot close to the road, and I tell them to pick up their crap, but I do it all the time because I'm not afraid. There was one person I was afraid of. His gut was, he looked a little frightened. His gut was a little big, and I didn't approach him. So, but most of the time I'll confront them.
The trail is not dirty. The bike
trail, it's off the road. Yeah.
And the hike trail that people use a lot of, that's not trashy. It's the road.
Yeah.
So I'm totally open to help with any of these assignments, and I am totally open to delegation or just anyone else taking over anything. So I have had two interactions with the stake presidents and then the mayor, and I'm not exactly sure how else to advertise, but Josh and Janelle has also mentioned that she could help, and maybe we can split up the nights we're up there passing out popsicles and garbage bags. So, okay.
I have a thought. I don't know whether it would work or not, but what if we put out in our newsletter, we put out a request for people to adopt a section of the canyon or a group on a repeating basis every so often. And let's see if anybody be interested in taking a section of the canyon. But there's also another element here, and I think people need to take pride in the fact that we have a beautiful canyon, and take pride in the fact that they need to take their stuff out. And we need to all be looking out for each other and telling take your stuff out, clean up your mess, and that sort of thing, and keep this in the forefront of the people, maybe through the newsletter, that the canyon needs to be kept clean, and that we're expecting it. I think there's a twofold process. One is doing the dirty work, cleaning it up. The other is in doing the work of educating people, or trying to remind them, not educating, that should be not a given, but trying to remind them along with each other to keep that canyon clean. It's a beautiful sight. It's a mess when people are throwing stuff around. And I don't know if some families would volunteer to take everybody's supposed to be looking for some service. And if they do it on a repeating basis, maybe every 3-4 months or something like that, go up and do a stretch of the canyon. I don't know if people would sign up to do that or not. Just my thought.
We could certainly ask, and obviously prevention is the best thing, which, getting it kicked off, hopefully with a big cleanup will help.
I know we're talking a long time, but I don't believe it's a lot of Providence residents that are our biggest infringers on that. I think they're visitors here that just like, it's not, they're people I've never seen before, in the city. I think they're just coming and doing it. There's the issue of enforcement too. I think Bob said he had the ability to take pictures of license plates and turn people's, things in for tickets. The other thing that helps, I think it's a 3-pronged approach. I think we've got to get people who want to enforce it. As soon as people realize I got a $500 fine for littering up there, and that gets around, that also motivates. I think there's got to be a carrot and a stick. So.
It's a lot of teenagers. I listen to the scanner every night, the police scanner. It's like my hobby. And it's almost every night up the canyon. You know where else it is? Almost every night over in Little Baldy.
Yep.
They go up there and race around and, act like teenagers. I never acted like that. I never littered because my mom.
Okay, next thing. Scarlett mentioned the concerts that are coming up, and another thing to mention with them is that the park steering committee is hoping to have some representation to get some feedback on the parks plan, especially at the first concert, the Down Yonder concert on the 29th. And those concerts should be, they should be a place where social distancing is not too hard to do. They were the part of the city celebration that I had planned, and I pushed to keep them because the band, in part because the bands were so excited. The bands both offered to do the concert for free. So the city isn't sponsoring it. It's not on our heads, but we will help with advertising. I have requested some signs to put out that are just generic concert in the park signs, concert in the park tonight signs, and I can put those out the morning of each of those concerts. But both bands are Providence bands with people from Providence in them, and so that should be something that hopefully you can also promote a little. Okay, we've covered fiber and the park steering and the water company. So that's it. If anyone wants to be the fiber representative, I know the mayor makes those assignments, but that's one I could, is not fitted to my strengths, I don't feel. And maybe that's something where I could get a little more breathing room.
Carrie, I'll take on fiber.
Okay.
I raised my hand.
And I've got your back. I mean, I want to move forward with fiber. I just feel like I'm not adding
Anything
a lot
else?
of value.
Carrie, anything else?
Nope,
Carrie, anything else?
that's it.
Okay. Brent?
One of my areas is emergency preparedness, and they are, it's been up in the air whether to have a certain training in September. I think North Logan is still planning on going ahead with it. It's been back and forth, and at this point they're talking still, going ahead with certain training. I don't know how involved our community. There was a bunch went through certain training, a half a dozen years ago, and then it's kind of lost its enthusiasm, and I don't think people have been too much involved with it for the last 4 or 5 years. I don't know how much we would like to look at pushing forward with having people certified to respond in a disaster in our community. And I thought I'd like to poll the council to see if we want to come up with a, before it was volunteers. Do we want to try and find some volunteers for it to get involved in certain training? How much do we want to do with it?
We can certainly put something in the newsletter, Brent. What comes to mind is the sheriff wanted to put on a citizens academy that would be taught by both people from the sheriff's department in Logan City, and he and Chief Jensen, Logan City chief, was trying to recruit people to be involved in that. And that goes hand in hand with CERT. And I think he got 9 people and 5 of them are from Providence. And he said, I didn't get enough volunteers who had interest to justify putting this program on. It's disappointing. It
is disappointing because, we haven't had an emergency that has required it other than the slide over in Logan. There was quite an involvement there. It's not if it happens, it's when, but people are quite comfortable and are not too anxious to get involved. So I don't know what we try and do with it. I am concerned about it. I'm interested in it. I've been through CERT training, and I found it very interesting. And but yeah, I don't know what to do with it. Anyway, so I'll take suggestions if you have them as we go along. Also,
Brent,
yeah, go ahead.
have you ever heard of the Medical Reserve Corps?
What's that?
Have you ever heard of the Medical Reserve Corps?
I have not.
They're here in Cache Valley. I'm a member. I had to get training. It's about triage. It's if there's a disaster, they'll call it the Medical Reserve Corps. They send out text messages. And so they do have that maybe we just need to ask more people to get trained with and on. So they've called my husband to go down to when Texas had all that flooding. So they'll also take that Medical Reserve Corps and they'll transport them to different places. Right now they're having, like when we had some of that contract tracing for COVID, they're having us do contract tracing. So it's very broad in the things that they have a group of volunteers that are trained that do. So I could get Mark Weibel is the guy who's in charge of it. That might that would be kind of the same thing.
Okay. I'll contact Mike Weibel and talk to him.
Mark Weibel.
He works for the Bear River Health Department, right?
He's in charge of that Medical Reserve Corps.
Right. Okay. Yeah, and see if we could put something in the newsletter in regards to that too. There's somebody, so we had a contact or somebody was interested in getting involved with it. Yeah. Okay, great. They, for all summer long, or ever since COVID-19 came up, they have dispensed with the county meetings on a monthly basis, except this last month they met down at the sheriff's office and practiced social distancing, and you could wear a mask as well. I wasn't able to attend that meeting, and I didn't know if Ryan, I think you were on vacation. I didn't know if you had gone to it or not.
I did attend one of them that they've had there on the monthly basis. In fact, I think I've attended 2 there this summer. but I'm not sure I attended this last one that you're talking about.
Okay. And
I think it was last week.
I don't know how much to overlap with that because the original, as you and I talked back early on before COVID started, that you were going to pretty much follow with that. And I didn't know if I should continue to be involved with the county meetings or if you were going to do that. I'm not trying to do more than, I don't want to take it away from you. So anyway, you and I need to talk about that and what we do more, okay?
I think having us both there is great. I think that having us both in some of these meetings as a resource, I think we play different roles, but yeah, I'm happy to be there with you. I think that's good for us to pair it up.
Okay, so I'll plan on attending the meetings as well then, okay?
Okay.
All right, that's all I have.
Okay, some things I wanted to add. As far as Providence Canyon, when you enter the canyon, it's state land, Department of DNR, Department of Natural Resources. As far as ownership, when you go past the big parking lot halfway up the canyon, there's a sign there. From that point forward is Forest Service land. However, they're both in the county. The sheriff does go up there. One of the deputies goes up every evening. Of course, they're looking for criminal activity. I guess dumping trash is criminal, but they're not looking for people dumping trash. In the past, I've heard, in places I've lived, people adopt a highway, they adopt a canyon. In my opinion, there ought to be what I call Friends of Providence Canyon, and they're people that use the canyon for recreation for different reasons. That's where this ought to go. I've been involved in canyon cleanups in California when we lived there. One person comes to mind who would organize this, but unfortunately he's taken a job somewhere else. It's the guy who's the county trails coordinator, Dayton Kreitz. He used to be up there every weekend in Providence Canyon. He loved it. The county has finally hired a new trails coordinator. I think I'm going to talk to her and say, there are plenty of people outside of Providence that use the canyon, and there's got to be a group of people that just have a passion for Providence Canyon and the trail. When the trail went in, it was just somebody did a magnificent job. It gets a lot of use. I'm going to make some inquiries, talk to some people, and see if I can't get some things going with that. And I do recall, and this probably goes back 6-7 years ago, there were a group of people that tried to put a group like that to keep Providence Canyon clean. And I remember meeting at Jones Simkin, the CPA firm of all places, and the district director for the Forest Service was there, and whoever the state people were there as well. And one thing they were talking about doing, and I said we could have Providence City pay for, and that's the trails coordinator was going to design a kiosk. So when you went into the canyon, it had information on the canyon and on trails, on where you could shoot, about cleaning up the canyon, things like that. And it kind of faded away and never happened. So what happened to that? I have no idea. A couple other things. Last week, I attended the annual Realtors Association conference. I was on a mayor's panel. That was very interesting. 2 weeks ago, I talked to Nate Webb at Cash Title, and he was saying there's 130 homes on the market at that point in time. A week ago, I talked to one of the guys, his name is, I think it's Kent Bankhead, the guy with the handlebar mustache. He said, we have 115 homes on the market. I talked to Jet Youngblood today, and now she says it's 103 homes on the market. And there are more association members than there are homes to sell, which is really bizarre. Anyway, the county fair and rodeo, the county council talked about that. It went over exceptionally well. It was well attended. Hardly anybody wearing masks. The rodeos, both Friday and Saturday evening, I was there. people sitting elbow to elbow. Monday night, I spoke to Lloyd Berenson from the Bear River Health, and I said there are people predicting that this is going to result in an outbreak, and he said he has seen no indication of an outbreak from the county fair. He says, on the contrary, things have been very positive. The numbers keep going down, all good news. So that's where that ended up. Another thing on the canyon, there's no reason why an individual can't take a shot photograph of a license plate, turn it in, and the Forest Service, if it's on Forest Service land, they will follow through and they will cite somebody. And I've done it before. So if someone's dumping a couch, snap a picture, don't challenge them, take a picture of the license plate and pass the information on to the Forest Service, and they will follow through. That's all I have.
I have one
Any
other
final
thing.
thoughts?
I had one other final thought. When you talked about the coronavirus, we had a prominent member of our community, you're probably all aware, pass away from the coronavirus. Kelly Rindelsbacher, who's a principal in the school system. And it's unfortunate, but it did hit our community as well. And a good man. It's a unfortunate thing that it happened to him, but and I think, I don't know whether we keep any kind of history of Providence as a city, but definitely the coronavirus hit us pretty close.
Any other final thoughts? Okay, hearing none. Ryan, anything else?
Nope, I think we're
Scarlett?
good.
Okay, Scarlett?
You all missed out on a wonderful, amazing dessert. It's 8 o'clock and not 6:30. So, sorry about that.
All right.
It's 6:30 somewhere.
Could we get an extension?
I noticed you took your report right through 6:30, Ryan.
Well, I didn't mean to.
Uh-huh.
No comments from anyone on the text or the emails, Mayor, and I don't
Okay.
have any other comments.
Okay, can I entertain a motion to close the meeting for this evening?
I'll make the motion that we close tonight's meeting.
You got a
Motion
second
from
from me?
Councilmember Kirk. I have a second from Councilmember Speth. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Mhm.